Not working? Now it is. It's working now. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for being here. We're going to move forward with our agenda. We have several bills on our agenda for the day, and then we're going to have a presentation from the Secretary of Transportation. And I'm going to ask if you guys could please close those doors for me. Who's up first? Okay, got it.
Mr. Chairman, the first bill before you was House Bill 1726 from Delegate Askew. There was a request that it be re-referred to House Finance.
It's been moved and seconded that we re-refer to Finance House Bill 1726. All those in favor of the motion, please use the opposed sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, bills have been referred. We got it. All right, David.
The report of the Commerce, Agriculture, and Natural Resources Subcommittee. First is House Bill 1002 from Delegate Guzman. This is a fairly straightforward bill without a fiscal impact. What it is doing is codifying the Agriculture and Forestry Industry Development Planning Grant Program, which is currently being operated and has been doing so under a memo from the Secretary of Finance as well as prior budget language. And it was reported by the subcommittee unanimously.
Okay, what's your pleasure? It's been moved and seconded that we report HB 1002. Members, please record your vote. Bill reports 15-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next up from the Commerce, Ag, and Natural Resources Subcommittee is House Bill 1361, which creates the Truck Manufacturing Grant Fund related to the Volvo expansion project in Pulaski County. MEI approved this project. The subcommittee recommended reporting with a technical amendment.
Okay, shall we move the technical amendment? Okay. All those in favor, please vote out of aye. Anybody opposed?
All right, Mr. Chairman, HB 1498 creates the Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Grant Program and Fund. This is related to the Merck expansion project in Rockingham County. It is an MEI-approved project, and the subcommittee recommended reporting unanimously.
Mr. Chairman,
Douglas Rush.
I believe we need to vote on HB 1361.
Yeah, she got a little bit ahead of it. That's all right.
Sorry.
Okay, let me have a motion on 1361. It's been moved and seconded that we report HB 1361 as amended. Bill reports 19-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you need me to repeat the information on House Bill 1498?
It's been moved and seconded that we report HB 1498. Members, please cast your vote. Close the roll. 19-0. Bill reports 19-0.
All right. Third on the list from Commerce, Ag, and Natural Resources is House Bill 1597, related to Go Virginia grants and matching funds. It allows localities in the tobacco region to use grants awarded from the Tobacco Commission to be used for the one-to-one match required of the Go Virginia program. There's no fiscal impact to the bill, and the subcommittee recommended reporting unanimously.
Okay, what's your pleasure? It's been moved and seconded that we report HB 1597. Members, cast your vote. And close the roll. 20-0. Bill reports 20-0. All right, Zach.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. The first bill from the Elementary and Secondary Ed Committee is House Bill 634, related to school divisions of innovation and performance-based assessments. The subcommittee recommended an amendment.
Is second? Moved and second on the amendment.
This bill would allow a school division of innovation to apply to the Board of Education to replace certain social studies SOL assessments with performance-based assessments. The amendment simply provided clarification to eliminate the possibility of a state fiscal impact, and the subcommittee recommended reporting 7-1.
Okay, what's your pleasure? It's been moved and seconded that Slow up. Let's slow up a second. All those in favor of the amendment, please use the vote sign of aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we report with amendment HB 634. Please cast your vote. Okay, sir.
Next. All right. The second bill is House Bill 750.
Okay, let's show of hands on 634, please. I think everything's unanimous, John. Except we have
20.
Okay.
Any nays? One nay. 20 to 1.
634 reports 20 to 1. Isaac?
All right. Our next bill is House Bill 753, related to social and emotional learning. The subcommittee recommended a substitute.
Can we move the substitute, please? It's moved and second on the substitute. All those in favor, use the voting sign of aye. Those opposed, nay. Exact.
All right. This substitute would require the Board of Education to establish a definition and guidance for social emotional learning in grades K through 12 and issue a report by November 1st on the resources needed to implement this statewide. The substitute version of the bill eliminates any fiscal impacts, and the subcommittee recommended reporting 7 to 1.
Okay, what's your pleasure on HB 753? Please cast your vote. Please close the roll.
18 to 1, Mr. Chairman.
The bill reports 18 to 1.
The next bill is House Bill 928, related to Chesterfield County and a proposed recovery high school. The subcommittee recommended an amendment.
It's been moved and seconded that we move the amendment. All those in favor, please use the voting sign of aye. Those opposed, is nay. Zach?
Thank you. This bill would allow Chesterfield County to establish a high school for students in the early stages of substance abuse recovery, with enrollment open to students throughout Region 1. The recommended amendment eliminates any fiscal impacts, and the subcommittee recommended approval unanimously.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we report with the amendment HB 928. Please cast your vote. Please close the roll.
21 nothing.
Bill reports 21-0. Thank you. Is that?
Thank you. And the last bill was House Bill 1031, related to funding for regional alternative programs. The subcommittee recommended carrying over the bill to 2021.
It's been moved and seconded that we carry over HB 1031. All those in favor, please use the voting sign of aye. Those opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in the Capital Outlay Subcommittee, House Bill 1247 is the chairman's bill. There is an amendment in nature of a substitute before you. The substitute simply adds projects to the plan that reflected the committee's and member requests and priorities. The subcommittee reported the bill. It has no fiscal impact.
It's been moved that we adopt the substitute. All those in favor, use the voting sign of aye. Those opposed? Tony? We're done.
We don't have to report the bill.
Okay,
Don't
let's
need to report them.
cast your vote. Thank you, Ann. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you. That's a great vote right there, you guys. Please close the roll. Bill reports 21-0. Thank you. Thank you all very much. At this time, we're delighted to welcome to speak with us the Secretary of Transportation, the Honorable Sharon Valentine. Did we lose her?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Seems like morning. Good afternoon. It's been a
Good
long day.
afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Members of the committee, I am here to give you an overview of where we are with transportation, giving an overview of the legislation we had before the body this session. I only show this slide for one reason. You will see the Amtrak trains all converging across that narrow strip, which is Long Bridge going over the Potomac. These are the Amtrak trains going over. This does not include 8 VRE trains and all the CSX freight trains, which makes the rail announcement that we had in December very important. It's a $3.7 billion initiative that is going to allow us to build Long Bridge across the Potomac, separating passenger and freight from Alexandria north, and actually sharing the corridor with CSX from Alexandria to Richmond, allowing for hourly or near hourly service between Richmond and Washington, 75% increase in VRE, expanded service to Newport News and Norfolk. We also acquired in this initiative the S-Line, which goes down to Ridgeway, North Carolina. It allows us to preserve that corridor. One of our partners is Amtrak. That was very important to them. And we also, it's hard to see on the slide, but a portion of about 170 miles from Clifton Forge over to Doswell to preserve for a future east-west corridor. I just ask you to hold those two slides as we move through to kind of explain how we, a major part of our legislation. We had 21 studies and reports due this year. One of those was the 95 corridor study. This is one slide from that study, and it's probably the most important slide. And it shows that along 95, that congestion and gridlock is a very extreme challenge for us. The study looked at building one lane of road from Thornburg to Springfield. It's about 52 miles, one lane in each direction. The cost is $12.5 billion. It's not only the cost of building this, but if you look with one lane in 2030, the day that it is built, it is just as congested during peak period as it was the day we started. We now have crossed a threshold in Northern Virginia where we really need to maximize every mode of transportation. Last year when I came before you, I stated that for the first time in FY18, vehicle miles traveled in Virginia went up, collections for motor fuels went down. We had predicted it for a long time. It was the first time that happened. FY18 numbers had to be adjusted down about $48 million. That trend is continuing. Because of this, I was actually asked to look at the sustainability of transportation funding given fuel efficiency, the introduction of electric cars into our fleets, the diminishing gas tax, and perhaps what options could be available. We convened a working group. It was extremely diverse, from environmentalists to the petroleum industry. We work with KPMG. They predicted that over the next decade, the collections from the gas tax will be down about 33% from where they are today. Some of you may remember that Smart Scale in the last round, which we voted on in July, was down already 45%. And the real impact of this is coming from fuel efficiency. Electric vehicles are actually only about 1.3% of our fleet in Virginia. It's really fuel efficiency. It's important. We support it wholeheartedly. There's just a real consequence on our revenues. This is an issue that is being faced all across our country. In Washington, there is some consensus, as it is with my colleagues across the United States, that 10 to 15 years from now, transportation most likely will be funded primarily through either a mileage-based user fee or a VMT of some kind. Today, we need to build a bridge. 21 states since 2013 have raised their gas tax an average of 10 cents. 11 of them have indexed it. Across Virginia, the statewide average of our gas tax is 16.2 cents. If you include the weighted average, which would include the 2.1% in Northern Virginia, along 81 and in Hampton Roads, it's 21.95 cents or 22 cents per gallon. The weighted national average is 36.3 cents. Looking at the statewide at 16.2, we rank third lowest. We are ninth lowest if you include the weighted average. So in the legislation that the governor has, his omnibus bill carried in HB 1414 and SB 890, we are raising the gas tax. We propose to raise the gas tax 4 cents a year for 3 years, to index it to CPI, which is averaging about 2.2 cents per year. We are creating a new highway use fee, which is it's a tiered fee that captures 85% of the difference between the fuel economy of a vehicle and the average fuel economy of those that have 23.7 miles per gallon, which is the average, and who drive 11,600 miles. That fee is also introduced, and we are proposing to cut the registration fee by $20. It's nearly in half today. It's $40.75. That is a fee that is not growing and is only paid by Virginians. This just goes on to explain the highway fee a little bit in more detail. If the average person pays $100 in gas tax and I pay $80 with my more fuel
Excuse me,
efficient.
Madam Secretary, can you back up to that last slide, please?
Oh, sorry. That's not it.
No, I'm sorry.
I think you meant the prior. Yes, that-
Right there. No. The other
Oh,
one. Go
you know
one
what?
more.
I can't see it. There you go. This is hard because I can only see myself. That is very startling.
This one, Mr. Chairman?
That's it,
Yes.
thank you. And the reason why I'm asking you to stop there is because there are several of us who have received a great deal of concern and conversation. May not mean much to a lot of folks, but bullet number 4, cut most passenger vehicle registration fees by $20 starting in 2022. Now, is that going to be concurrent? You're going to start and then eventually do away with the fee, or what's the proposal?
The fee today for an average vehicle is $40.75. It would be cut by $20, starting in FY22. And that is money that Virginians would keep.
Okay, thank you.
This just goes on to explain the highway use fee a little bit more. I will tell you that in the bill, it directs DMV to create a mileage-based user fee. These are voluntary programs that are being piloted across the country where people can actually tabulate their actual miles driven. They can do it through devices they can put in their car. They can do it through apps. They can do it through different ways. But if people drive less than the average, they are more than welcome to. I didn't touch it. No, oh, I'm so glad. Woo. So if we are able to do this, anyway, if you're able to do this, you will see on the chart that the gas tax would be phased in, the highway use fee will be phased in. Right now, it's a fairly modest fee, but that is going to become more and more important to Virginia. That also includes the registration fee cut to Virginians. You see the gross. This also would give us the opportunity to open up the recordation tax within the general fund, which today supports the bonds for Route 58, the Northern Virginia Transportation District, and a small amount for Oak Grove. That money would stay within the general fund, and we would also be paying DMV for their services. Today, this is how transportation is funded. I would say 40% of the legislation is to do this. It is to streamline funding. It is to stabilize funding. All modes of transportation, all modes are held harmless. We are making sure that all modes are able to actually rise and fall together and to grow over time tied to CPI. It's a model for really investing in a true multimodal transportation system in Virginia.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
I know that I will probably receive some criticism, but this is what I do not understand.
Yes, sir.
We're going to raise the gas tax,
Yes, sir.
but we're going to reduce the registration fee, which we already have in place, that generates revenue. I apologize, but I just do not get the rationale.
You know,
I
when
don't
we met
understand
and
that.
I said that we would come back to you and show you, we're running some numbers for you, but I will just tell you the premise behind it. In Virginia, we have fees that are very static, and I mentioned this to you. This is a way for us to cut one of those static fees to allow that to go back to Virginians. This is a fee that no one but Virginians pay. The concept being to increase the gas tax allows us to capture at least 17 to 20% from out-of-state drivers and allows us to tie it to CPI so that it can grow over time. That's the premise behind it, so that everyone is contributing to transportation, even those who are outside of our Commonwealth. But that's the premise. But certainly, I do understand your thought, but I'd really like to get back to you on the numbers you had challenged us to look at. But thank you for raising that again. This also allows us, I mentioned that Smart Scale was down 45%. We had more than $7 billion of requests in money. We had about $800 million in order to, for the program this year. This would increase Smart Scale by $200 million. It would restore the transit funding of $60 million that was lost when the CPR bonds expired. It will address special structures. We have 25 special vital structures, bridges and tunnels in Virginia. We are managing to maintain them to keep them safe. Not one penny has been put aside to rehab or replace those structures. This program would actually, by year 4, get $85 million to begin preparing for what will be a $3 billion need in Virginia. It increases safety by 33%. The program that we are focusing on, I cover it very briefly a little bit later, but the numbers in Virginia are really going in the wrong direction. We are making systemic investments in our infrastructure and also on proven initiatives to try to save lives. We are able to meet our targets on the interstate secondary roads and city streets. We are changing our business model to really look at the life cycle of our assets. We are able to match PREA funds. Those bonds do expire as well. We have a $50 million PREA match for Metro that corresponds with that from DC, Virginia, and the federal government. And it does create a transit incentive program to make our transit systems work more efficiently for people and to address barriers for low-income individuals. Also part of the bill is transforming rail. We are creating the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. This is an authority that will own and manage the assets of this rail corridor. It will also manage the contracts for the rail initiative, and it will also authorize debt from the I-66 tolls to allow us to finance a portion of Long Bridge. We are working in partnership with the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission in order to do that. Safety, as I mentioned, last year, well, actually for the past 3 years, we've had more than 800 people die in Virginia on our highways. Half of those who die are not wearing a seatbelt. 60% of young people in fatalities are not wearing a seatbelt. For the seatbelt, the handheld devices in which there's a large percentage of distractions that cause these accidents, and the ban on open containers in the passenger area. Those 3 initiatives are going to have a delayed enactment until July of 2021. And we are creating, through DMV, a working group to create educational and training materials for the state police, for law enforcement, for the public, to make sure we are really educating people about the value of this and how it truly can save lives. It's really expected that if we are able to do those 3, also to have better speed enforcement along 81, portions of the 64-95 overlap, and portions of 95 near Prince William. that we will be able to save about 120 to 160 lives a year in Virginia. This just goes into the role that DMV is going to be playing in putting together that advisory group. And then other portions of the bill, it's going to restore funding to MVT, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, because much of their funding was used to help fund the capital needs at Metro through the Metro bill 2 years ago. This restores just a portion of those funds. It authorizes the debt for the 81 quarter improvement plan, so we're able to complete those projects within the next 10 to 12 years. The advisory committee has approved it, as well as the CTB. It restructures the 2.1% regional gas tax to be indexed to CPI as well. And in it, there is a portion to allow us to use 58 bonds to complete the last 1.6 miles of quarter queue in Southwest Virginia. That is a very broad overview of a large transportation initiative.
I think we have a couple of questions. Delegate Cox and then Delegate Moorfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Secretary, the chairman mentioned obviously the registration fee, but we also heard you had two offsets. You had the inspection fee offset. Where is that at this point? Because I didn't hear anything about that in the presentation.
In the Senate bill, there is the safety inspections are not included in the omnibus bill. I have not gone to a subcommittee this afternoon, but there may be some safety inspections and some change in safety inspections in the bill later today. I don't want to presume it because it's not done yet.
Delegate Cox.
Could you maybe give the rationale, because a big deal was made of that, and that was going to be a big offset in savings. So what was the logic for it being pulled so early before we started?
The theory behind it was that Virginians are paying $20 a year for safety inspections, and there is no tie to safety. 35 states in the District and Columbia have eliminated safety inspections. 14 other states other than Virginia have them. 4 have them every other year. For those states that do not have safety inspections, crashes have declined 8% in over 10 years. In Virginia, where we have them every year, crashes have declined 2%. And there is no tie that we can come up with that is tied to insurance. I will say that in reading it's almost like the negative impact for those who drive with an expired inspection. It is a primary offense. It does have tickets between $50 and $100. You do not get points for it, but it does go on your driving record, and insurance companies can use that to charge more. It was really just trying to place this issue on the table to have a debate to see whether or not Virginians want to continue to do that.
Delegate Moorfield.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Madam Secretary, thank you for coming. And I apologize. As you know, during the session, we have to deal with thousands of issues and pieces of legislation. Could you elaborate a little bit on the prohibition of open container in a passenger area?
So in Virginia, it is permissible to have an open container in the car of a vehicle, and we actually are penalized with federal funds because we have not banned that. What this legislation does is actually ban, after this year of education, an open container in the passenger area of a vehicle. It does allow it to be in other sections of the car as long as it's not in the passenger section, and it is open.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Moorfield.
Follow-up question. Does that only apply to alcohol?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. We've actually gotten that question. Yes, it does. Thank you. That's a really good question.
Thank
you. I'm so sorry. I did get that question recently, and I should be very explicit when I say it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, does that complete your...
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair.
1 second. Delegate Davis.
Madam Secretary, just real quick, first, I do share the chairman's concern about getting rid of a fee that's there when we're not really getting rid of it, we're just decreasing it. And at whatever analysis, I like to see it as well, please, at the convenience. But the question is, so we're going to raise money to bond new projects, I would imagine, and use this to cover the debt service on these new projects we want to get bridges, whatever the case may be. Would that be accurate?
Well, I mean, what we're doing in this bill is actually authorizing debt for 81 and 66 inside the Beltway tolls to help with the construction of Long Bridge.
A follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
But there's no other authorization.
Sure.
Dr. Davis.
Thank you. So the question I have, and I don't know if this chart exists, but if we put these additional gas taxes in place, so we're raising it 4 cents every year for 3 years, so arguably it's increasing, but at the same time, I've got downward pressure on it because I've got more fuel-efficient vehicles, and we're creating an incentive for people to go out there and get those fuel-efficient vehicles. Do I have a chart that kind of shows the upward trend in pricing plus the downward pressure compared to the bonding debt service?
Madam Secretary, I think staff has an answer for Delegate Davis.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to clarify that the bond authorizations are not related to the additional tax increases in the bill. The 81 bonds would be supported by the fees that you all passed last session during the veto session for the 81 corridor. And in terms of the Long Bridge project, it's the revenues that are currently being collected for the congestion pricing, the tolling on 66 inside the Beltway. So those are existing revenues that would be going to support those bonds.
Gotcha.
So the new money would be for new purposes, not for that debt.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Delegate Ferris.
Yes, sir. Madam Secretary, it's good to see you.
It's nice to see you.
By the way, she's from Lynchburg, in case y'all didn't know. So is our Secretary of Health. But anyhow, on the open container, how much can we get some information on how much federal money we're missing?
Do you know that right? $24 million. Pardon me? So it's $24 million a year. It still comes to us, but it's restricted. And so this would allow that money to go into other programs.
I just was curious, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Ferris.
Madam Secretary, I just was wondering if we thought about the effects that would have on designated drivers.
For designated drivers. Yes, one of the questions that we actually got was, what about tailgating, right? Because it could be, but it could be in the trunk of a car. So I did want you to know that. Designated drivers can drive, but nobody can have an open container.
Thank you.
Which we highly encourage. Delegate Ferris.
Madam Secretary, I think that you've answered all of our questions. I know that you have
It's
to
just
head
the
off.
start of a discussion, I know.
Yeah.
We will come back and see you. And we'll be happy even just to show you how, this is obviously for new projects, but you can see what the diminishing gas tax and trying to bring in the highway use fee with it.
Okay. Thank you so very much for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
Hold up, Mark, before you leave, please. We have a couple of housekeeping matters. We're going to start in about 2 or 3 minutes with transportation sub. But before we do that, all the members on the committee, can you just join me in the corner to my left? I have a matter of urgency that I need to communicate with you, please. And then we'll get started with transportation. Thank you all.